Hey everybody, Brian Rundle, Black and White with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest, a special Thursday night show. As you can see, it is just me tonight, no Lana, and the reason why there's no Lana is she has her own show, The Quest Show, which will begin live at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to do a quick live show just based on a few things that has happened over the last few days. And then once you're done with this show, go right on over to her. Like I said, The Quest Show, you can join her over there. What I would also like everybody to do, if you don't mind, is please like and subscribe to this show and to and share it if you can. We are trying to get 500 subscribers. I know that does not sound like a whole bunch, right now, but we had just started the show about a year ago, and I will tell you, it's not as easy to get as subscribers as you think it is. Maybe I also have to consider the fact that maybe, the show's just not as good as I think it is. Who knows? I don't know. But we still enjoy doing it, whether people out there are enjoying it or not. We're hoping people do enjoy it, but Lana will be back with me on Tuesday night, of course, on our regular show on live. But like I said, you can catch her directly after this show at 8 o'clock and at the Quest Show and see her over there. So first things we want to get to, there's a lot of things that happened just in the few days. But the first thing that I want to talk about is that Joe Biden was able to once again add something to his resume. We have a couple of hostages that have been released. The Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan were released in a historic prisoner exchange between Russia, the U.S., and Germany, President Biden said Thursday. The swap was one of the largest between Moscow and Western countries since the Cold War. As part of the exchange, Russia also released Alsu excuse me for the name there, Kermasheva, a dual U.S. Russian citizen and Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty journalist accused but not convicted of failing to register as a foreign agent. The Wall Street Journal reported that the three gentlemen left a Russian aircraft around 11 a.m. at an airport in Turkey capital. It's my understanding that they will be back sometime late tonight, where the president and the vice president will and seeing them there. Let me remove this. Sorry about that. I wish I had like a producer or somebody that can help me with all this stuff. But that, again, it's good news. And, Paul Whelan was a name that we had heard over and over and over again during the Trump administration, that he was going to get him released. This happened in 2018, where he was accused of spying and he was arrested and sentenced there. And this has always been a name. And then when Joe Biden took over, I saw a lot of MAGA people saying, why can't you get Paul Whelan released? That was back when Brittany Griner was detained, and everybody was like, well, you got Brittany Griner, but you didn't get Paul Whelan. Well, first of all, neither did Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had been bragging just within the last month or so, saying that he will get Paul Whelan released within the first few days of him winning the presidency, and it'll definitely happen. Whether it's in the very first few days of him getting elected, or on the day that he takes actual office, which, as the days go on and the polls continue to show that possibility is seeming less and less likely. But that's something that we could talk about here in just a little bit. But it is good news. And the president of the United States, Joe Biden, was asked about Donald Trump's comments about that, and he had this little clapback.
President Trump has said repeatedly that he could have gotten the hostages out without giving anything in exchange. What do you say to that? What do you say to President Trump now, former president?
Why didn't he do it as president?
Sir, what did you say? And walk away, boom, out. And you're right. Why didn't you do it as president? This is, of course, Donald Trump always talking his shit, and always acting like he's the big tough guy who's always going to do everything. but there's been so many things that he said he was going to do and he never did it. And why people continue to fall for this over and over and over again is well beyond my comprehension. Baby Juggernaut has joined us. Thank you so much. I appreciate you always joining us. Just me tonight, so I hope I'm not ruining it for you. But again, we did get some great news that we do have some hostages coming home. It's going to be a great reunion for them and their families, and just another accomplishment for the long list of accomplishments of this president, Joe Biden. I was reading the other day that Joe Biden, on the first night of the DNC, is going to be a speaker, and I have already told somebody that is going to go down in one of the greatest political moments of all time. When he takes that stage, it may take about 5 to 10 minutes for him to be able to talk, and every bit of that is going to be deserved. You know, anybody that just don't understand at this point what Joe Biden has done for this country, and I'm not talking about even just as president, I'm talking about way before he was president. And when he stepped in, I mean, he's run for president a few times and it did not work out for him. And I'm sure that was horribly disappointing. And he literally came out of retirement to run for president one last time because he saw the 4 years of Donald Trump and said, I've got to do something. And because I've got the recognition, because I've got the name, I believe that I am the only person that can beat Donald Trump at this particular time. And sure enough, he was dead on correct. And in the beginning, it didn't look good. He was falling behind the first two primaries. I think he finished third, fourth, fifth. I mean, he was not finishing well in the primaries. And then South Carolina came along. James Claiborne, who has a big voice, not just in South Carolina, but in the political landscape, especially on the Democratic side, came out, endorsed Joe Biden and said, this is our guy. This is the one who's going to beat Donald Trump. And from that point, he just rolled through the primaries and took care of business and destroyed, for at the time, the whole MAGA movement. And in the 4 years that he was president, put together some of the strongest and best accomplishments of a president in our lifetime. I mean, he did it in 4 years. He did more in 4 years than a lot of presidents did in 8 years. So every bit of praise that Joe Biden receives is deserved. Every bit of vitriol towards this president is not deserved at all. And this is coming from people who just don't know better, and they refuse to understand and accept and acknowledge what Joe Biden has done for this country. And, I couldn't be more proud to have voted for him. I would have absolutely 100% voted for him again had he run. And here's the thing. Everything right now feels really good with Kamala Harris. I mean, the transition, Alana and I were talking about this the other day. It's only been 9 days. Well, now at this point, it's been 11 days. But at the time we were talking about it, it was 9 days when Kamala Harris basically took over the reins. Now, she's not the nominee yet officially, but she's going to be. But in such a very short time frame, not only has she generated the excitement, but she is leading in multiple polls, which is unbelievable. It's beyond the expectations that anybody had. Even the ones who are saying we need Joe Biden to drop out of the race, it exceeds the expectations of what they thought would and could happen. And it is unbelievably amazing. But what I was going to say is, had Joe Biden stayed in the race, it would have been a rough 3 months. There's absolutely no question about it. He was falling behind in polls. But I do believe when it came down to the day we needed to vote in the next president, I still believe in my heart, and I might be naive and I might be wrong, but I still believe Joe Biden would have won. I truly do. But you know, we're at a different point right now. We're at a different place. And, you know, everybody seems to be super excited. And I'm excited. I love everything that's happening right now. And, you know, the one thing we are all clamoring for is this debate. We hope this debate happens. It's 50-50 whether or not it will or it won't. Lana and I have talked about this a few times. And, you know, she's of the impression that it won't happen, and she certainly could be right. I'm under the impression that it will, because I just don't think that Donald Trump's ego will allow him, after the goading and after the everything that he's getting. I think eventually he will give in. But there is one reason why I think that he might not, and I'm about to get to that right now. Donald Trump was asked to be interviewed at the National Association of Black Journalists. There were 3 Black journalists that were there that were interviewing him. And it went as well or as badly as you would suspect that it would have went. In fact, a lot of people are saying that it went worse, that it could not have gone worse for Donald Trump. Even people on the right looked at this whole conference or this whole interview and said, oh boy, this just is not good. They might have even agreed with what he was saying, but the way he was saying it and everything that came out of his mouth was laughable, was racist, and was just Donald Trump being unfiltered. And the more and more time goes on, and if he sees himself continuing to slip in the polls, and he starts to feel like things are starting to slip from his grasp, because just a few weeks ago, there was an assassination attempt on his life that nobody is literally talking about anymore. The really only thing they're talking about is whether or not he was shot with a bullet or he wasn't. I've said on the show for 4 straight weeks now, or 4 straight shows now, that he was not shot with a bullet. There's nobody that can convince me, unless a doctor, a legitimate doctor, comes out and says, yes, he was shot with the bullet. Here's why, and gives me the proof. But until then, that dude was hit with some sort of shrapnel. Something happened, because if you see his ear now, it is perfectly fine. But he had this momentum going. He had that. He had the debate, which everybody deemed as a disaster, which it was. It was not good at all. But as I said at the time, because of the news cycle that we have in this country, that people would have forgotten about it at some point. However, I do understand that from that point until the election, every word that Joe Biden says would have been scrutinized, and everything. There would have been too much news on Joe Biden that was negative rather than positive, which would have made the obstacles harder and harder to overcome. But at the end of the day, I truly still believe that Joe Biden would have won. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you do not agree, let me know in the comments as well. But anyway, he was at this interview, and boy, it was a doozy. So we certainly have some clips. The first clip we're going to play is they were asking him. There was it was set up with the elephant in the room as to whether or not he should have even been invited. And here is how the interaction went in the beginning there.
So appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
Okay, so I'm going to play the rest of this clip here. That's Rachel Scott, by the way, who did an excellent job. I mean, she was the ones in all the clips I have. She was the ones who was asking all the questions that got him riled up. But I was saying earlier, the one reason why he may not debate is you could tell how he's setting it up. The other night, Sean Hannity had mentioned something to the fact that if the journalists are going to just be nasty to him and there's no sense in him debating. He did this once before in the beginning, not too long ago, sort of giving the idea that he should not debate, but he did that with Joe Biden originally. And now he's doing it here. So the interesting thing here is that ABC is supposed to be hosting the next debate. And you notice that he pointed out that she is from ABC. So that is giving me the impression he knows that she's from ABC right off the bat. He probably knew that she was going to ask tough questions. So this is his setup, just like he does when he thinks he's going to lose an election. Before the election, he just lets everybody know how it's going to be rigged. This is what he's doing now. Oh, you're from ABC, the same broadcasting network that's going to be hosting the debate. So he wants to set up this idea that everything's going to be unfair for him. So there is no reason to debate. But the real story is that we all know, and he knows it, and the people around him know it, that he wants nothing to do with debating Kamala Harris. Literally nothing. However, I still believe his ego and him getting goaded into it because she's laying in pretty hard about this debate. And it's going to be other people, the Lincoln Project and George Conway, who started a new PAC, calling him crazy. It's going to be all these people who are just going to get in his head, and he might be, in a way, forced into a debate. But I think there's one thing that we all know for sure. We are really hoping it happens, but let's finish the clip.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country.
And so that's the first clip. And, believe it or not, that one did not get the most attention. But we're going to move on to the next clip where this is just another trope of the right that is just, it's so irritating. And so I wouldn't even say it's frustrating, because I think most people know that this is garbage, and you're going to get, Lana and I actually had this discussion the other night. They were asking about abortion, and she was saying that the Trump supporters and all these people know that it is not true that people are not having abortions after the baby is born. And I pushed back a little bit and said, I don't know. I mean, I know that there are a lot of MAGA people who do not know that. I understand that. But I do think that some of them listen to this and they truly believe it. There are clearly a lot of conspiracy theorists and people out there who want to believe things that are so over the top with doing absolutely no research whatsoever. In fact, I got a little clip later on that's going to prove that out a little bit more. But let's listen to Donald Trump on this ridiculous answer about abortion.
J.D. Vance?
I'm going to get my J.D. Vance question in. To your point and to Rachel's point, he, has a lot of opinions about childless women like myself or divorced people like yourself. Do you think, well... I mean, my point is here.
It was said in a friendly manner.
My point is, do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what J.D. Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the
But I
death.
think it's
They're
about
allowing
freedom,
the death
right?
of a baby after the baby is born, based on
Sir,
the
that
governor
is
of
illegal in
Virginia.
every state in the
That's
country.
Based on the governor of Virginia,
Executing a
they're
baby in
allowing the
every
death
state
of the
in the country
baby
is illegal.
after it's born.
It's a
They're
crime.
allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well,
of
Democrats
pregnancy.
have denied
I think they're right, and I.
Yeah, that's the same bullshit that we continue to hear over and over again. And that is the one thing, and I hate to say the word good, but that's the one good thing that Donald Trump has for him, I should say. This is not a good thing overall, but for him it's good, is that he has the complete ability to run over the person that is asking him these questions. They want to get in their points and say, whoa, everything you're saying is completely wrong. Like the reporter there was basically telling him that is illegal in every state. He just runs right over it and continues to press on with the same garbage. But yeah, for people to listen to this guy and go, I'm voting for him because he's going to stop the abortions that happen after the babies are born, is so insane. And that's where we are in this country now. We are voting on insanity. And you know, as I'm going to get into something here in a little bit too that is just completely insane, and it's something that they say about the left that makes us insane, but a lot of it's just not true. But I want to get a little bit more to these clips here. This is him being asked about releasing the prisoners on January 6th.
To about January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order.
Yeah.
When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Sure.
You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol, a horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never. I'm a builder. I know about this stuff.
This is so fucking stupid. I mean, he is comparing what happened on January 6th to a few protesters that were outside the Capitol protesting the Israel-Palestine war, and he's comparing spray painting something to officers getting killed, getting injured, getting beaten up, and these animals attacking the Capitol and breaking in. Let's just say, let's go with the premise that they always like to say, that it was just a bunch of people walking around like it was a tourist thing. The fact that you broke into a place that was not open to the public on that day and just ravaged the place and rampaged everything, and they did all kinds of desecrating the Capitol. He's comparing that to the same thing. So this is what they do always. They always take one situation and they go, what about this? What about that? What about the shooting at the schools? Oh, yeah, but what about Chicago? You guys don't want to talk about Chicago. It's like, can you just answer the specific question? And at this point, we all know they're not going to. What they're going to do is they're just going to maneuver to something that is going to be the both sidesism of everything in this country. But the difference here is, I mean, the difference, what they're doing here is they're taking, it's not even apples and oranges. It's 2 completely different sports that we're talking about. So, but let's finish up the clip here where he's talking more nonsense.
You'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to
my
the people
question is
that
on
tried
those
to
rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
would you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well, they were convicted by a very tough system.
convicted by a very tough system. I don't even know what that means. I mean, I think there are a lot of people in that audience that probably knows about a very tough system. But look, it's this ridiculousness that if you, I mean, I don't know. When I talk to Lana about this all the time, when I was growing up, if you heard this nonsense on a stage and you were being asked these questions and those were the kind of answers you got, I mean, literally nobody would even talk to that person anymore as a serious person, as a candidate for the United States of America. But now we are interviewing this guy, and there are outlets that are taking this guy seriously, and we're treating him as if he is a serious person and a serious candidate. And to me, that kind of stuff gets scary, and it's not good for the future of our country. If we're taking that kind of stuff seriously, I just don't know. But this last clip needs absolutely no introduction. I got the most news for the entire week, so let's just roll it. And I'm sure you've seen it, but it certainly is worth seeing again.
That Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman.
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask, continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
Yeah, I mean, so she became a black person, and they keep doing this thing where somebody is black when it's convenient for them, or I guess that's what he was saying. There's no way. I can't imagine even somebody as stupid as this guy. There's just literally no way that he can't comprehend that there are two ethnicities or two races that are different and get together and have a child together, and they can claim, both. So, I mean, you saw Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was called Asian and he was called black. He had an Asian mother and he had a black father. Kamala Harris had a Jamaican father, which I guess that's the thing that they're saying. They're saying that Jamaican isn't black. I think, there are a lot of Jamaican people would like to have a word with you on that one. And she had an Indian mother. So, if that's the continued sort of road they want to go down on attacking Kamala Harris, I think Lana said it before, as a black woman, she 100% welcomes that. Just continue to do that. I think it's one of Kamala Harris's best strategy is just to let this fucking guy talk and just let him go on and on. In fact, if they do a debate, it might be a good idea to keep the microphones open. Forget about shutting them off. Let that idiot try to interrupt her. Let him try to interrupt a professional prosecutor. I absolutely would love to see it. In fact, she should, as she's doing these rallies and she's goading him into it, she'll go out and say, you know what, Donald, we'll even leave the microphones on. We don't even have to turn them off on this one. You can talk as much as you want to, because she will absolutely destroy him. But again, at the end of the day, there's so many different routes that they're taking so far. And I promise you, it's not going to work out for them. They're going to do this thing where they're going to confuse her race. They're going to do this thing where they're going to call her a whore, basically, that she slept her way to the top. Fine. Again, that's not going to work out very well with the independent women. What Donald Trump does not understand, and I don't think at this point he's ever going to understand, and the people surrounding him may even be trying to tell him, you got to slow down on this stuff. But I don't think he cares or believes it. I think he believes that he's in a perfect position to win, and that he's just going to continue to be the same guy that got him there. And, I think even if somebody told him, say, you got to change strategies, you can't do this, I think he's still going to roll with it. I think he's still going to do the misogyny thing. I think he's going to do the racist thing. And there's nothing that's going to stop him. And you know what? It's going to be welcomed from the other side, because, as I was going to say, he's already got those voters that think that's hilarious and think that's so cool and funny. But it's the voters he needs to get in order to win the election. And he's going to continue to lose more and more and more voters as we go along. And again, like I said, I think at the end of the day, this is just not going to work out well for him at all. But Baby Juggernaut, I saw your comment, so I want to get to that. Joe could have pulled it off. This is when we were talking about whether or not Joe could win or not. But the breath of air Kamala blew into the party was refreshing. I'm like you, though. President Biden had my vote. Yeah, I just the accomplishments alone. Like I said, if most people just voted on actual facts, I think Juana and I talked about this last week. It's kind of turned into a popularity contest now. It's not even, it's who talks the most, who resonates with people based on what they say, not on what they do. And if this were an election based on what they did, I don't see how Joe Biden even loses a state. I just don't. I mean, what did Donald Trump do? List his accomplishments versus the accomplishments of Joe Biden. And it's not even, it's a blowout. This is like the Super Bowl winner playing a high school team that hasn't won a game. So I don't understand where anybody, other than the fact, and we've talked about this a million times, the only thing you can understand is that you resonate with people who are angry about their own lives and they need something to blame. They need someone to blame. And Donald Trump gives them that place. He gives them that place to blame why your life sucks. And if anything, if your life is going to continue to suck, the one thing you have now is a guy who trolls those libtards on social media and to their face at these debates and at rallies. And some reason, some way, that makes these people whole. But there has been a movement, as we've been talking about lately, this calling MAGA weird, which I love. I think it sticks. I think it works. And one of the main reasons why I think this sticks and works is because for so many years, all we talked about Donald Trump and how scary he was and how, off the rails crazy he was, and that makes him scary. But using the word weird, I think, is just perfect because it does now diminish who he is as a person, and it actually exposes a little bit more of who he is as a person. He's a clown. He's always been a clown and somebody that you should never have taken seriously. Now, again, we talked about this last time. His policies you take seriously. The people that surround him, we take seriously. But him personally, nobody has ever really taken him seriously. If you've ever asked the people in New York that were actual builders, who were actual real estate moguls, they would all say he was just nobody that they would take seriously, that he was a clown, that people laughed at him, and people would laugh and say, I put my whole life into building this company and these real estate buildings and all this stuff, and I did it from scratch. He has done nothing. He has put his name on a lot of buildings, and a lot of the times the reason why his name was on these buildings is because he couldn't pay for it anymore. And so the banks, instead of foreclosing on the building, said, you have a name, and instead of shutting this thing down, let's just give you royalties for your name, so that way we could keep this moving. That's basically what happened with him on a lot of things. You notice the casinos with his names on it. gone. They were gone. He absolutely destroyed the casino business. In fact, he was so bad at casinos, he has a building with his name on it in the casino capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Do you know the one thing they told him that they will not allow for him in the casino capital of the world? They said there is absolutely no way we're giving you a gambling license because you are garbage. So he couldn't even get a gambling license in Las Vegas, Nevada. So that should tell you just how awful he was at running the businesses, or the so-called businesses. Lana and I talked about this too last week. A lot of his money came from the from his dad dying, and he got like over 400 million, I believe it was. It was definitely in that ballpark of inheritance. And also too, there was a big story in the New York Times about how he ripped off his family. He ripped off his own parents to get more money. But going back to the weird thing sticks, but they interviewed Donald Trump about it. I think it must have been either today or yesterday, because I just saw this clip. They were asking him about being weird, and this is what he had to say.
They're the weird ones, and if you've ever seen her with the laugh and everything else, that's a weird deal going on there. They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not, and I'm up front. And he's not either, I will tell you. JD is not at all. They are.
Yeah, I could tell this is like really getting to him. He does not like this weird thing at all. So I find it actually pretty funny that that it's getting to him. But that's exactly what they are. They are weird. And somebody else that is super weird is this Jesse Waters. This is another thing that they're doing now, that if you are a man and you vote for Kamala Harris, that you're not a real man, that you have some sort of issues. I think they're going to allude to that you're gay or whatever. Of course, I know that there are some gay people who vote for Donald Trump. So how does that work? I don't know. But he's on the 5 the other day, and I think this is part Jesse Waters thinking he's the funny guy and comedian on that show. And it's every time he talks, it's just absolutely cringy. But he's on the show the other day, and this is him talking about people if you were going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Why any man would vote Democrat. It's not the party of virtue, security. It's not the party of strength. It's definitely not the party of family. And to be a man and then vote for a woman just because she's a woman is either childish, that person has mommy issues, or they're just trying to be accepted by other women. And I heard the scientists say the other day that when a man votes for a woman, he actually transitions into a woman.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what the science says.
Science says that.
I would imagine that's him just trying to be funny. There's no way he heard scientists say that, obviously, but I think the thing that bothers me and concerns me the most is that this is like he's on a national news channel. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about on our news channels anymore. This is not, Ted Koppel and Walter Cronkite and guys like that anymore. The roundtables that you used to have back in the days were actual journalists who were talking about real things. But now we have Jesse Waters and who's the other clown that's on the 5 that thinks he's hilarious? Greg Gutfeld, talking about whether or not voting for somebody, whether or not you're a man and whether or not, I mean, what he's talking about, the parties of virtues and strength. I can assure you, there's nothing strong about Donald Trump. He's a weak-minded individual. He talks tough, and sure, he can run over you when he's talking about dumb shit, but he's a weak, pathetic, so-called man. He just is. This is a guy who is already setting up to not debate Kamala Harris in the next debate. That's exactly what is happening. And you're going to call him the guy of strength. And by the way, all these guys that are saying this too, people like Jesse Waters and Ben Shapiro and who are the other ones? Charlie Kirk, all these kind of guys. I would give anything to see them throw a baseball at each other, a football, and see how that works out for them. There's nothing manly about these guys. Nothing. Like literally nothing manly about them. They are just all sad clowns who I do believe probably were picked on in high school. They probably are very bitter about how they were treated when they were young. And quite frankly, if that is the case, I feel bad for them, and I hope that did not happen. And, there would be some sympathy for these guys had they not, gone down some sort of road of now trying to be the tough, manly guy when it just does, it doesn't resonate at all. But, again, this is where people get their news, which leads me now to another person where people get their news. By the way, Baby Juggernaut, I'm with you. I'm done with any media, television media. I've had this conversation a lot of times about these quote unquote mainstream media. I've about had it with it because it's just all opinionated now. It's not just journalists sitting around talking about facts and what's actually happening, but that's what I'm seeing. But anyway, another clip, a guy that a lot of people listen to, Joe Rogan, is somebody that, people they literally get their news from this guy. They will listen to him, and it may be one of the few sources they listen to. It's not like they're going to listen to Joe Rogan and go, now, I'm not saying all of the listeners, some of them will, but there are too many of these listeners that will listen to this guy and go, hey, did you hear what Joe Rogan said, and pass it on as fact. This is him the other day talking about the State of the Union. And again, there are so many things out there where you can get confused. In fact, just the other day, Lana and I were on our show. There was a tweet from supposedly Elon Musk saying that if you use the word weird towards anybody in the Republican Party or MAGA, that there's going to be punishment. Well, it turns out that that wasn't true. I saw that tweet and I didn't automatically go, oh my God, this is crazy. I went to his page. I literally went to his page to say, there's no way he came out and said this. And I looked at his page. It wasn't out there. And then later on, it came out not to be true. But this is just so obviously not true that somebody that has millions of listeners, this guy's getting paid over $200 million. It's his only job. If this is your only job and you're going to talk about this on your show, you should be 100% prepared as to whether or not this is true or this is not true. But take a listen to this and listen to how fucking ridiculous this is.
The union was not live. And
yes, it was.
No. Did you see that they found out that it wasn't? That they looked at his watch. And his watch
no.
Yeah. Do State of the Union analysis, Biden's watch.
No way.
Yeah, someone zoomed in on his watch, and his watch was the wrong time.
How could that even be?
Well, it could be he's blind and you can't see what
but
time his
all the
fucking
networks
watch
on
is.
it?
I will say the one thing I'm happy about on whenever I see these kind of clips, there is always somebody always there questioning him, going, what are you talking about? This is so ridiculous that the State of the Union, first of all, he's talking about this finding out a month later that the State of the Union wasn't live. If it wasn't live, you don't think every right-wing news outlet wouldn't be losing their shit over this? But months later, this guy, because they said it, is reporting this on his show. I mean, this is stupid.
I don't know what they knew. How do you know what they knew? You just you get a feed.
Oh.
You know?
I don't think all the Republicans would agree to it too.
Who knows what they knew? They're all there live while he's doing it?
Yeah. You got Mike Johnson behind you. You got them all in the audience crossing their hands when they don't like what you say.
Is he really questioning whether or not everybody was there live with him while they were doing the State of the Union address? This is insanity.
Gotta be live.
Let's see.
I don't see anything. State of the Union wasn't live. I added watch.
It could be some troll shit.
See anything about
they
that.
got me.
Yeah.
They could have got me. Well, there was no Biden's watch. Look at Biden's watch in.
Let me tell you what he's talking about. What he's talking about is when he gave the speech about him retiring and saying that he was stepping down, that they were saying that that was not live because there's a shot of his watch with a different time on it. I don't even know if that's true, but let's say it is. The fact that you are associating this with the State of the Union when it was months later, and you're having this in your brain that this could even be possible is outrageously ridiculous. In fact, there's no sense in even playing the rest of the clip because I promise you could go and watch the clip. I'm not playing it because he says something enlightening that's going to go, oh, okay, I see why he said that. I promise you there's nothing on there. He finally realizes what he said was absolutely ridiculous. But again, this is how people are getting fucking news nowadays. And this is why Donald Trump and people like him can become the president of the United States. As I said before, if everybody had to tell the truth and there couldn't be any lies, and you can't just go out there and spew conspiracy theories and hoping that either they're true or that you could just say it and I don't know, spark some sort of interest and get people to watch and get people to listen. If you were not allowed to do that, there's absolutely no chance Donald Trump even exists on the political scale. I mean, just absolutely no chance. But it does exist, and because that's not going away, there's a decent possibility that we're going to see another Donald Trump somewhere down the line. It could possibly happen, but we'll see. But last clip I'm going to play is that our future president here, Kamala Harris, she was at the eulogy for Sheila Jackson Lee, who recently just passed away. And she had a little tiny slip up. This could ruin her for a very long time. She had a slip up during the eulogy. Let's see if you guys can point it out and figure out exactly where the slip up happened.
She founded the Congressional Children's Caucus, and as a leader who believed deeply that America's true and full history must be acknowledged and honored, it was Sheila Jackson Lee whose bill made Juneteenth a federal holiday, which as a United States Senator I was proud to co-sponsor, and then as Vice President, it was my honor, with the President, it was my honor with our President Joe Biden to stand beside Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
See, somebody like Donald Trump would have taken that in and let them keep going, but you could tell she really legitimately didn't mean that, and she just pivoted right back. It was like, I want to make everybody, you could just tell in her voice, I want to make everybody clear. I want to make this clear that this is President Joe Biden, and went back to that and didn't overdo it. But it was kind of funny, and you saw the crowd reaction, how excited they were to hear that. So that was a nice moment during the eulogy for Miss Jackson, or for Miss Jackson Lee, and so we're going to see what happens. We have 3 months to go, and it's going to be very interesting. The very last thing I want to say before I wrap up, what I'd like for you guys to do first, too, is understand that Lana is doing her show. She's probably doing it right now. So I want you guys to go over to her show and join her show. It's called The Quest Show. You can join her live. But before I wrap up here, the very last thing I want to say is I see this controversy, another one in the Olympics. I mean, first of all, do these MAGA people and the Trump people and these idiots have to try to be angry at every fucking thing that happens? So there was a boxing match between two women, and one of the women has been accused of being transgender and is a man. And the match started. The one woman from Albania, by the way, she was fighting somebody from Italy, threw a punch, And the person from Italy, I mean, this is just in the first few seconds of the fight, stopped the fight, said she had this pain in her nose that she couldn't stand, and then she quit the fight right in the middle of it. She was crying. So, of course, that led to all these comments all over Twitter. I've got moronic friends that are sending me text messages about it, saying, see what happens, how you people let these men beat up on these women, and you guys talk about women's rights and you don't really care about women's rights, and went on through this whole thing. First of all, the woman from Italy had said that she did not quit or start crying because she was hit by what people want to believe was hit by a man, that she's not trying to get political. She wasn't making judgments about all this stuff. But the main point of this story is it turns out that the fighter from Albania is not transgender and is not a man. She was born a woman. And by the way, in the country she lives in, it's illegal to transition. You're not allowed to be a transgender in Albania. And there's one other little fact that you might want to go back and look at. First of all, 2 facts, by the way. She's got 9 career losses to women. So it's not like she's this tank machine rolling into the Olympics so she could beat up a bunch of women so she can win the gold. Second thing is, one of those losses came in the 2020 Olympics against women. And guess what? Nobody heard this woman's name in 2020. Nobody, because nobody was calling her a transgender. Now, there was a point where I think there was some tests that came back and didn't fully show, the X or the Y chromosomes. There was an X chromosome, Y chromosome. So, there was some controversy over that. So they're using that as to saying that this is a transgender person, that transferred into a woman just so they can go around, beat up other women and win the gold. It's just not true. And this is another thing I'm so tired of. I'm so sick of people just trying to find reasons to be angry at things that just aren't true. Just like the opening ceremonies, they were angry because they were quote unquote making fun of the Last Supper. Not true. That's absolutely not true. That wasn't the case. But you know what? They're going to still roll with it anyway, just like Donald Trump does. He's going to roll over you, whether it's fact or not fact. He's just going to continue that nonsense and try to let it go and let it resonate with enough people who go out and vote for him. And unfortunately, there are enough people that will go out and vote for him because of people on Twitter who are making up these things that are going, and it's not just regular folks on Twitter. The J.K. Rowling or whatever is tweeting about it. Jake Paul is tweeting about it. All these people are tweeting about it without doing the proper research. And of course, millions of people are going to believe it. Like Joe Rogan in his clip, millions of people are going to believe what he says. And of course, way too many people believe in what Donald Trump says. But I truly believe this is all coming to an end. Now, is the lying, the conspiracy theories, and the innuendos coming to an end? Never. And that's why we will continue to have to fight in the future for normalcy versus, ridiculousness. And who knows if the Republican Party could ever get back to normalcy. I think at some point they may have to try their best to do it. I don't know if they can at this point, but we'll see. But it's time to get back to normalcy. But you know what else it's time for? It's time for everybody to go on over to the Quest Show and watch Lana. She should be on right now. So I do appreciate everybody that joined in. Of course, Baby Juggernaut, who always comes in. He is another king of conspiracy. I think you said that about Joe Rogan. He probably is the all-time king of conspiracy. But thank you guys for joining me tonight. We will be back live on Tuesday night. Please like this show, please, and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, we're trying to get to little steps here, trying to get to 500 subscribers. We want to get to 1,000, 2,000, and kind of just grow from there. So please, if you don't mind, if you're watching this now, at least hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Go join Lana's show now, and we will see you guys Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Thanks for joining.